Clear. We got this. 9 bang out. Go. Talk kill.
Let's get the...
They're pushing. Go and see.
Strike team. Doing like we control it. Defend all zones. Hostiles have the bomb. Strike team inbound. Gunship overhead. We got this. Pre-order now and get access to the private beta.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Treyarch. I'm John Raffis. We're coming to you live from our Santa Monica studio, where apparently anything can happen. Live stream production, what could go wrong? See, old Treyarch would have just been like, audio, who needs it? But this time, no. Audio, we're coming back to you with sound. Complete package.
That's right, we got it perfect.
All right, so last weekend, this weekend, all about the multiplayer beta lifestyle. And we're here to talk about it. Brought some friends with me. Got Dan Bunting, co-studio head. Got Matt Scronce and Tony Flame. And we're just going to recap beta week 1, look ahead to what's coming up this weekend. Dan, we know who you are. We've seen your face. We know your game. Okay? But you guys haven't seen you in a while. So Matt, Tony, who are you and what is it you say you do here?
Like you said, Matt Scronce, game designer. I work closely with Tony and our design team. I primarily look at and design our spawn system, score streaks, perks, some of the gear, game modes, just a lot of our combat and systems. Like I said, Tony and I, we oversee a lot of that.
Yeah. Tony?
Movement system.
Movements, yeah.
Yes, my name is Tony Flame. I have a title of expert game designer, which is pretty cool. And I've been working on weapons and combat and all things kind of gameplay related and multiplayer. I've been focused on that for most of the Black Ops series, going back several games. Been here at Treyarch ever since World at War, doing design type things. So continuing that into Black Ops 4.
Awesome. All right, so as we kick off the beta discussion, let me just sort of throw it around the table. Beta, week 1, general impressions. How did it work out for us, the developers?
Well, I think beta week 1 was a huge success. Typically with a beta, anything can go and anything can happen, and so we have to be prepared to react really quickly. We're always listening to the audience, listening to the community, monitoring the game. I think in terms of the history of betas at Treyarch, that one was probably our smoothest one. I mean, we had zero downtime on the network, so the game was up all through the weekend. Players were able to enjoy it, have fun. Relatively few hiccups along the way. Great feedback. I mean, that's another reason that betas are around, is so we get feedback from the fans about how's the game playing, how do they like it, what are the things that they are annoyed by, what are the things that they love, what are the things that what are the ideas they have to improve and make suggestions to make the game better.
Was anyone annoyed by anything?
Not at all. Okay, another reason why it was just perfectly the smoothest beta ever. No complaints whatsoever.
Well, so when it comes to all that feedback, hitting us up on Twitter, #BO4Beta, and also the subreddits, we're scouring those and even offering some feedback of our own.
Hitting refresh on Reddit quite a bit. Yeah,
Yep.
probably a day long, everyday task. I think that some of the really great pieces of feedback we got around weapons balance, which Tony can talk about, score streaks, devastating score streaks, of course.
Not just any kind of score streaks.
Devastating
score streaks.
Spawn system, the new gear category and armor, obviously was a hot topic. The specialists, there's a lot of gameplay items for people to try out and experience, and It's going to take a little bit of time for all that to kind of sink in and settle. So it was a great first weekend. I think we've got a bunch of really awesome changes for weekend 2.
Cool. Well, we will also have, just kind of talking about sort of where we're going to play. The first weekend we saw Seaside, Contraband, Payload Frequency, and including a new map that was new since reveal, a map called Gridlock. What can you tell us a little bit? Can anyone tell me anything about Gridlock? Ready, go.
I'll take it. All right. So Gridlock it's set in a Japanese city in a very urban, populated area. The fiction behind it is it's a bank heist gone wrong. So you've got this money truck, this cash truck that's been overturned. Some explosions toppled the freeway, and you can see where they tried to get away with the cash, and it turned into a big street fight. So it's a pretty fun map in terms of just like the setting and the environment, and it's cool. Added some interesting, fun little twists. It's one of my favorites. I love the visual aesthetic of it. I think that the gameplay is also been a pretty big popular favorite within the studio at Treyarch. I think the fans enjoyed it as well. And that's it. Spend some more time in the sauna.
But okay, all right, that took it to a different place. So just a quick shout out to our Activision social team. They've been running a program #CodTopPlays, and most of the highlights that they've run this week, I have to say, have come from Gridlock. Have been a lot of exciting gameplay on that map.
Amazing, yeah.
All right. So this is a little bit of a look back, a little bit of a look ahead. We're going to kill two birds with one stone. We're going to see a little bit of gameplay from a new mode that we introduced called Control on a map that people will be able to start playing on Saturday called Hacienda. So if we could, in any order, let's talk Control and Hacienda.
Sure, I can touch on Control. It's our new mode for Black Ops 4. It's quickly become my favorite game mode. It's the high-level idea of Control for this weekend for players who didn't get a chance to play last weekend are you've got attackers, you've got defenders, and attackers are their objective is to capture 2 zones. That is their objective in a round. The defenders must prevent them from doing so. You can see that now. We get an attacker in the vineyard in Hacienda. The nice twist here on Control is that we've got a limited amount of lives per team, which we've never done in Black Ops. So you've got some really nice layered gameplay of let's push, but at the same time you got to be cautious and remain cognizant of that pool of lives.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting new twist. It sort of made you think twice before just sort of randomly rushing into any engagement.
It also, my favorite part about that is it allows for some really insane comebacks where you're the only player left on your team and you're up against, I've seen it with a team who still has respawns left, and when you can pull that win out, it's the crowd goes wild.
#CodTopPlays.
Right. I'm going to submit mine. So.
There you go. All right. Well, let's kind of, in week 1, and we'll even see this in the coming weekend, sort of the integration of S&D and Kill Confirmed, a lot of different types of gameplay to be had across a number of different modes. Kind of thinking about week 1, particularly as it relates to week 2, what did the first weekend of beta teach us? What are some of the things that sort of sharpened our focus in terms of, what we wanted to modify, polish a little bit?
I could start there's always the technical side of the beta. The betas are great for, technical infrastructure, just making sure the game is stable, running smoothly, and that sort of thing. And then, of course, all the gameplay feedback that we have for tuning and balancing. On the technical side, there was a lot of really great, just right off the bat, out of the gate. Some good feedback we're starting to see with, matchmaking performance, with game performance, with stability. We were able to catch a bunch of bugs, some crashes that people were experiencing. We were able to squash pretty quickly. I think was another success with this beta is that it had one of the lowest crash rates from any previous betas we've had. And just make it as, try to improve things as quickly as we can to make a smooth weekend 2. And of course, it's still the beta, so there's still going to be a lot of stuff for us to improve and fix going into launch.
Yep.
But that's kind of the dry, boring stuff. I'll leave it up to these guys to go into the fun talk about gameplay.
Well, the goal of the beta is to make the launch better. When the game comes out on day 1, the game's going to be that much better because of what we did in beta. And we're really off to a great start that first weekend. We got all our, I mean, the stability was great. We got all our analytics up, so we're getting data on everything. We're getting a ton of feedback, and that's really what the beta is for. So everyone that's playing, everyone that's giving feedback is helping us do what the beta is meant to do. So it was really successful in that regard. We got constructive feedback on all sorts of fronts. On the weapon side, in terms of looking at numbers, so compared to the Black Ops 3 beta, we weren't able to really dig into that stuff until after the beta. This time, as soon as the beta is starting, we're looking at everything live, and we're able to make a lot of adjustments. So you're going to see a lot of, you saw changes even in the first weekend, tuning updates, and you're going to see a lot more for weekend 2. So we learned a lot of things about weapons and specialists. Actually, we had pretty good weapon balance at the gate, but it wasn't quite exactly where we wanted it. In terms of weapons for Black Ops 4, we think of every weapon as its own, it's really its own character, right? Which means every weapon has its own personality. And you learn that as you're unlocking attachments. By each gun actually has its own unique attachment set that's different from every other weapon, which means you have a different relationship with each weapon, right?
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more. Just kind of step outside of the beta conversation. There are going to be a number of players this weekend that get to hop into the game for the first time. What is it that they need to understand about that attachment system?
So you get a gun, and every gun is, even without any attachments, it's going to have its own unique properties and how it plays and everything. But you really are going to learn more as you play that gun and unlock attachments. You're going to get an attachment set that no other gun has in the game. So the way that you upgrade that, and you're going to say, I want to pick this gun because it has these specific upgrades, and it really digs into that certain play style, right? If it's an SMG, it might be a really run and gun, close quarter combat focused SMG, but it's not going to be able to be used as well at long range. And there might be other SMGs or even other weapon classes that you use for those different play styles. And the attachments are really kind of what lets you figure out if you're going to go all in on that style or if you're going to diversify that weapon. And then it's just a whole different experience with each weapon. So that's been really cool, and it's been great to see players get to start to experience that and understand the depth that that system offers.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned along the way was kind of coming back to beta for a moment is sort of the amount of constructive feedback that we've gotten. And I have to say that, like, as someone with their face pressed against the glass of the internet listening to all of that, like, I was really impressed with just how much we got and how constructive it generally was. There were one or two of you, but just kidding. But like, I was really impressed with just how much insight and how well articulated some of that feedback was. What was some of the feedback that crossed your desk, Matt?
The big one was the score streaks weren't devastating, apparently. So I apologize. I failed to hit the mark on that. No, there's some really great feedback. Score streaks obviously was a big one. Reddit, shout out to those guys, shout out to a lot of community members who provided some really nice breakdowns of the behaviors they were seeing, the behaviors they were expecting, so that helped a lot. Movement was another big one. It's interesting, we've had this discussion over the past week of, this is our first boots on the ground game in 6 years. So we've got a lot of players who are used to that advanced movement, and now we're back on the ground, but we've obviously still got that really smooth and fluid movement. So we're just seeing some play styles that we haven't seen in 6 years in our games. And one of those play styles happened to be bunny hopping. So we're gonna put those guys down a little bit and keep them firmly planted on the ground a bit more. We've got some new tuning in there for jumping. Sliding again, while we do love the slide, we were seeing it just a little too much, a little too fast. It was disrupting some of the gameplay and the combat that Tony really and his team strives to nail down. So we've worked on that. Spawns, like Dan mentioned, spawns is a big one. We were seeing some anomalies in domination on day one last weekend. Colin, my associate designer, Dan Baker, engineer who works on spawns, we all kind of huddled together and took a really close look at what we were seeing, and isolated some problems, and we're able to turn around a fix for that, I believe, on Sunday. So we've immediately on data have seen a nice turnaround on that. So it's the feedback and all that has just been super helpful.
Dan, just kind of hitting you up, there was one bit of feedback that kind of came in around armor that we wanted to touch on. Is this news to you? Have you?
It's not news.
You heard?
That's probably been one of the most popularly discussed topics from the community on the internet. I think that it's important to understand first and foremost that we're listening to everything that people are saying, and we are on there all the time, and that it's extremely helpful. No matter how people feel about certain things, we want to hear all of the feedback. And with that category of gear in particular, it's a new category to create a class this time around. We have a goal that we want that to sort of anchor some of the play styles in the game, where you have a range of content that really kind of appeals to different players. So, for example, if you want to, if you're really into team play and supporting your team for a win, you might go with equipment charge, for example. So that's going to be something that really kind of appeals to that style of player. Stem shot obviously is going to be that's going to appeal to your really aggressive players, and we saw that was a very popular piece of gear content. But they all kind of have their place in sort of anchoring a certain play style. That said, it was not balanced out of the gate the way that we wanted it to be. It was not performing the way that we wanted it to be. Some of these mechanics did cause some frustration for players, and we are going to work primarily to focus on that, making sure that it's all balanced, that it all feels good, not only to the user who's playing it, but also to the player, but it's also going to feel good to people who are fighting against that player. And that there's a way to counter it, and there's a way to kind of to move around these mechanics if you want to have a little bit deeper counter game.
Well, before we get into some of the new hotness for next week, maybe that's a good place to sort of cover one last topic, which is, so I mean, overall it sounds like things went really well from the first weekend. How does this impact gameplay heading into weekend 2, and what in particular will you have your eyes on?
We've got a ton of changes because it's such a short time frame between weekend 1 and weekend 2. We're not going to have everything addressed in that time. We've got some stuff that's coming in slowly, so I think people are going to see there's a little bit of change to improve certain things. We've got about half of the things that we want to do for the gear category, probably I'd say. Other stuff is going to come later between weekend 2 and launch. But we're still going to be collecting all the feedback that we can and making decisions about that stuff. But Tony, if you want to talk about some of the things that you've changed.
Yeah, just for a quick weapons update. SMGs, they had some new mechanics this time around. We have a lot of new weapon mechanics. We wanted to make sure that they had a place in the game, and turned out that they did. A little bit too much of a place in the game for what really the kind of composition that we're going for. So we're gonna be focusing on the other main weapon class, assault rifles, bringing those up so that they're more relevant. People talked about things like strafe speed for ARs feeling too slow. We're actually addressing that, some ADS time. So we're gonna see some changes to bring ARs up to where SMGs were, so we get a better composition there. Tactical rifles, we're doing great. LMGs need a little bit of love, they're going to get it, and snipers are getting a little bit of adjustments. The quickscope times, we're just not as good as snipers here at Treyarch as the rest of the world out there and on YouTube and everything. So we're going to be dialing those in. All the toys will still be there, but they'll be a little bit more dialed in, so that it's requiring the appropriate amount of skill to get those shots. Yeah. Yeah. And other than that, a couple things like player feedback systems, taking damage. We wanted to make sure that wasn't too distracting. Some pacing issues like the speed, the rate of healing, and specialist cooldown rates, things like that, to make sure we get that the right balance of gunplay and specialist equipment, and just overall gameplay pacing, get that dialed in.
I've been having a lot of damage issues, probably because I just keep getting shot all the time, but that's probably not your problem.
Just to note, we will post a full recap of all of the changes that are going in between week 1 and week 2 after this the live stream later today. So that's something I think that we'll go into more details on that post.
Great
news to you, right?
I look forward to helping out with that. It's fantastic. All right, so the beta formally kicks off tomorrow at 10 a.m. And for anyone playing on the PC, I'd encourage you to just kind of tune in to @TreyarchPC. Our good friend Rob Smith is going to have all the details about how the PC beta rolls out this weekend. And so one thing to look forward to on Saturday? No, not Saturday. Tomorrow. Some new hotness, and something that Matt's going to get into here is we've got a brand new game mode. Heist. So this one is for any of you Val Kilmers out there that want to knock over an armored truck, because Heist is on the list of the dude goals for life, right? All right. So
nice try.
You can't land them all, Dan. If you could tell us what is in store for Heist.
This is something that we are super excited. We've been keeping it really tightly under wraps. I know a lot of times we come up really big with these announcements, and we've really kept this one really secret because we want to surprise our players for weekend 2 with something brand new that they haven't had before. And it's a mode that we've been working on. It's a lot of fun. It's very different for Call of Duty, very different for Black Ops. It's not gonna be anything like you expect in terms of how the game's played so far. But really, like the simple thing is, you got 2 teams. Going to grab a bag of cash, try to get to the extraction site so that it gets extracted by the helicopter, and keep your team alive, and that's how you win. And then Matt's been working really hard on this on the design front, and there's, I think, a lot of really cool nuance that comes out of the team playing this game.
So Matt, tomorrow we're actually going to fire up the live stream again with sound, and we're going to have you and Dan back. We're going to do a little sort of game with devs and play through some Heist tomorrow morning at 11. And you've been instrumental in this mode. Tell us how this all goes down.
Yeah, I mean, Dan really laid it out. Obviously, we've had a great team working on this. Initially, it was kind of we were inspired by Blackout.
Yeah.
Actually, it's like, the aspect of starting with nothing or almost nothing and kind of gaining power and escalating throughout the match. How do we bring that into our multiplayer universe? So we spent a lot of time, many meetings, many back and forths, and we're in a really good spot right now with Heist. Like Dan said, it's 2 teams. There are no attackers or defenders. Everybody is an attacker. Everybody is a defender. There's the neutral objective, which is the bag of cash, and that is your main objective. You want to get to that bag as soon as possible, and then as soon as you grab that bag, you're going to have an extraction helicopter come in somewhere in the map. You're going to have to hunt it down, and you're going to have to go extract that cash if you want the cash.
Yeah.
And if you're able to do that, you'll win that round. It is round-based. It is limited lives, single life. But we've, again, inspired by Blackout, we've got, so when a player takes fatal damage, they are going to go into kind of a bleed-out stage, and you're going to have a chance to revive teammates. Like Dan said, the kind of meta that has we've seen in gameplay in our playtests internally has just been really inspiring, and it's again, like Control, Heist really kind of personifies Black Ops 4 of, I'll give you an example where we're chatting, before a round, and I'm going to take this, okay, well, I'm going to take this, and we're going to work together, and I can't wait to play it tomorrow on stream.
Yeah, I think you see in this mode, there's it kind of just has evolved to where people are sticking together more than I've ever seen in any mode in Call of Duty at all. And it's not like it's required teamwork. It just happens. It's sort of it's more of an emergent kind of behavior because players have to survive because they only have one life to live. So there is that desire to kind of stick together. And what I see is a lot of people talking on the mic beforehand. They're like, it's typically, are you going to go for the bag or are you going to flank? Like, what are the 2 options you're going to start with? And you see a lot of kind of play behaviors and then counter behaviors to maneuver around and try to best the other team, and it's a lot of fun to escalate too, because everyone's trying to get that, get the most points per round so they can get the most cool stuff the next time around. So there's a little bit of, like Matt said, there's a meta to it. There's a strategy. There's some coordination about who's going to equip what and who's going to load out with what, and I think that makes the game just deeper and more rewarding. Yep. Of course, we tried to strike actually like sort of this perfect balance between a party game style. So, Treyarch's always done a lot of these party games that are really more kind of casual oriented and just fun to play around with. So it's sort of a balance of a party game with something that has a competitive layer to it, and it has sort of a competitive feel, but if you want to play it that way. But it's really just a fun, I think more than anything, it's a fun party game. Yeah, it's
like I've said to you, over the past few weeks, I've had some people around the studio, asking me, was this designed to be a competitive game mode? And it really wasn't. Obviously, when everything we designed, we want it to be fair and balanced and competitive. But this one was, like Dan said, really inspired by those party games that we've done before. But just layering on that strategy and the tactical nature that Black Ops 4 just inherently has you can jump in and have fun and not take it too seriously, but if you want to, you can party up, and it's just a blast. Yeah.
One of the cool things about Heist is what you've unlocked through rank progression and your guns, and that doesn't matter. It's entirely self-contained. So you go into Heist, and you earn what you earn within that game. The guns you get, the perks,
Yeah.
the attachments, everything you get is earned within the game. So if you're a low level and but you can still rank up in that game mode. So it's a great option there if you want to just be on an equal playing field with all the other players.
That's a good point. There's no creative class. Specialists don't. It's not really about specialists. If you can choose a specialist in the beginning, but that's really more of just a character select choice, cosmetic. It doesn't have to do with the gameplay. All the gameplay is earned through the course of a match, and so it's a very, like I said, it's a different twist. It's something that's different not only for Black Ops, but for the franchise. It's a really different kind of feel, but it's fun. A lot of fun. We've had so many hours of just, roaring, hilarious, epic matches, which it brings out the volume in people when you see these teams playing together. It actually has a lot of really just kind of cool, fun chaos to it.
Very cool. Well, we look forward to playing it tomorrow. So the beta tech formally goes live at 10 a.m. We'll be on stream at 11. Playing through some Heist with you guys. We'll send out something socially so that everybody can tune in for that. Any closing thoughts for anyone jumping into the beta this weekend?
Well, we've had 1 weekend to really to learn a lot and to make a lot of changes and to get ready for weekend 2. And we're going to have even more feedback this weekend. We got Xbox players coming on. We got PC players coming on.
Yep.
Second round for PS4. So should be a more refined experience on weekend 2.
Yeah, I'm excited just that we've been able to turn around so many changes and based off of last weekend. So I'm super excited for the people who played last weekend and the new players and to get our hands on that delicious data.
Apparently, I'll be helping to write some of that up this afternoon. So
Yes.
look for that shortly.
There's a lot of changes. That's the context.
Dan, closing thoughts.
It's a party. Just come in and have fun. That's really the most important thing. Is we love the fact that we can get to celebrate this game with our fans before launch and so far ahead of launch. That's the part that we love the most. Is we are going to be going home and playing ourselves with everybody this weekend.
All right.
For sure.
Well, on that note, we'll see you back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for some Heist. There we go. For some Heist Game with Devs with Dan and Matt. And beta kicks off formally tomorrow at 10 a.m. Keep that feedback coming on Reddit and on Twitter at TreyarchPC, and hashtag BO4Beta. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.